Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I've been daily driving the most hardcore Land Rover Defender ever made. This is the Octa, named after the octahedral shape of a diamond, one of the strongest and hardest to find versions of a diamond if you're mining them. And you can see it's got a little logo here to demonstrate that here on this signature graphic panel. But this is the most powerful and widest version of the recent Land Rover Defender, and I think any Land Rover Defender ever in production. And funny enough, the hardest core version of this is not even a Land Rover bit, and it's what they've borrowed from BMW and put under the hood. This has the S68 4.4 liter twin power turbo, twin scroll, twin turbo V8 in the Octa, producing 626 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque. Unless you're in dynamic launch, it does 590 pound-feet of torque. Of course, attached to this, the ZF 8HP automatic transmission, and this is all-wheel drive, but it goes beyond the engine. As I mentioned, it's wider and taller. We have what Land Rover calls the 6D suspension, which is just an insanely complicated and impressive air suspension system that allows this to get up to 12.7 inches of ground clearance, but also much less when you're lowered down in dynamic mode. Now, obviously, there are other bits on this that tell you it's an Octa. We have a different rear bumper back here with quad exhaust tips. Excited to start this up and let you hear this. These flared wheel arches here, and this color, Petra Copper, which it says here, right here, Petra Copper, you can see, and then a black roof, which every Octa has. And this has the $5,000 matte PPF option. Of course, we'll have the entire spec down in the description for you guys, but I figured we would show you today what it's like to run your morning commute in a $160,000 Land Rover Defender Octa. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. I've been living with this all week, and it's been a treat. But you know what? I was a bit weary of this car because every V8 Defender I've driven prior to this has had the good old supercharged 5-liter V8 that we've known from JLR for so long. It's a very sort of American feeling V8. And now we have the S68 from BMW. So you're driving this Land Rover, but you're hearing a BMW XM. It's very strange, but I'm excited, again, like I said, to show you what that's like. Now, this has lots of gold touches. You can see we have these gold recovery points back here, but the most, the most, I don't want to say, I guess you could say impressive. This is very, very bold. I guess bold is the word I'm looking for. Massive recovery point in the front, and obviously part of the design language. You also get the gold outlining here on your Defender badge on the bonnet, as we should say. This is a British car, though it has a German heart, even though this isn't new. You know, Land Rover has borrowed engines from BMW in the past, never one with over 600 horsepower, but you know, a lot of the older, like early 2000s Range Rovers had the same engine as a BMW 7 Series. So now we also have the same engine as a BMW 7 Series. All this to say, the Octa is rare, incredibly tough, and inherently desirable. Not my words, the words of Mark Cameron, the managing director for Defender, that also happens to have the name of a racing driver. But anyway, that's probably good for the little piece to camera at the beginning. Why don't we poke around this and show you what it looks like inside and out. Actually, let's start with the wheels and tires, because this has the all seasons, the Michelin primacy, which is just and tire, nothing too special about it, in a 275/50 R22. Now, with the all-season tires, this will do 155 miles an hour. A car the shape of a brick, 155 miles an hour, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. This thing is absolutely mad. If you guys saw the video that the Straight Pipes did, they call it a wheelie truck, which is pretty accurate for the way this thing launches. It's absolutely nuts. Love the clear taillights on the back too. It's a good look. Apologies for it being filthy. It's been raining for 3 days straight, and this is just what it looks like when you live with one of these for a few days in the rain. In the back, normal Land Rover Defender stuff. And this has some extra storage underneath the trunk floor. We've got a bit of foam, a toolkit, and things. And obviously, this has a spare, which is exposed on the back. Kind of like to see that, as opposed to a cover like you'd see on a G-Wagon. And then we also have the safari windows, I think that's what they call these here, up on the roof. Love to see that super classic and heritage Land Rover style stuff. Alcantara headliner, getting a little bit ahead of myself, but let's go ahead and jump into the back seat and show you what that is like. This has the burnt sienna interior, which I absolutely love. I think this Petra Copper and burnt sienna go together very well. Just many shades of brown, which you guys know I like a good brown car. And then we even have this like kind of discreet little like chrome gold around some of the orifices here. It just makes everything look quite nice. Very good use of materials here. And to give you this handle to pull yourself up into the back seat, which is very good as well. Sat by myself here at 5'11". I mean, this is a Defender 110. You guys know this by now. It's got tons of room. This is the mid size. So every Defender Octa is a 110. Unfortunately, you can't get it in a 90 or a 130 yet. We may see that in the future. But for now, the 110, which is kind of the mass seller here for the Defender, is your only body choice. But I want to talk materials because they feel $160,000-ish and kind of meshing with this like rugged off-road style car. So you've got nice leather in here. You've got the Alcantara headliner. You've got this chrome bit. You've got actually exposed bits of metal kind of to the door that are color matched. Like to see that. And then you have your own climate control panel back here, of course, with vents, 2 USB-C ports, and then you have a fold-down armrest with some cup holders. Obviously, room is no problem. You could be like 8 feet tall and sit in the back of this car because it is so tall. Let's go ahead and show you this S68 before we jump up front and fire this thing up. Forgot to mention, actually, this is a mild hybrid, so actually very similar to what you see in new BMW products. Of course, the XM is a plug-in hybrid, but still has the S68. And it's probably what I would say this sounds the closest to is the XM. So there you go. The S68 mostly covered by this special Octa branded engine cover. You can't really see a whole lot, but what you can see is the little BMW badge there with the QR code right on the front. So they're not afraid to show that this is a BMW engine, and honestly, the S68 is an absolute sweetheart. So not complaining about having that here. More of that sienna brown up here on the door panel, and your first look at the body and soul seats in the Defender Octa. Body and soul, more referring to what these are able to do, which we'll show you once we start the car, but these are unique to the Octa in the way that they are sort of performance shaped and a little bit hard, actually. They're kind of like a pretty hardcore bucket seat. We'll talk about those more once we're on the road as well, but lots of this burnt sienna up here. I don't have a handle to get in. I mean, I guess you could argue that this little handle on the side of the dashboard you could use, but there's no handle up here on the A-pillar, and actually the passenger doesn't get one either, so this is the best that you get here. We have a Meridian sound system that has many speakers, some of which are in the seats, but whatever. You don't care about that sound, you care about this sound, so let's fire it up. Pretty underwhelming because it's a mild hybrid and it kind of just begins. But if you hold this little button right here on the bottom of the steering wheel, everything turns red, including the Octa logo and the paddle shifters. And it puts you in the most hardcore drive mode for off-road. But most importantly, it opens up the exhaust valves. Oh, those burbles on the down rev. Of course, since this is an British vehicle, it's got a soft limiter at 4,000 RPM, so you can't just sit and piss rev it, but it sounds quite good once you are actually able to rev it out. Now, to get yourself out of Octa mode, you hit this twice, because hitting it once will put you in dynamic. Hitting it twice puts you back into auto. It'll close the valve and you're back in your normal mode. Now, otherwise up front, this is just normal Defender stuff, just wrapped in different colors. The real difference here is this steering wheel, but the dashboard, the screen, this panel here, the shifter that I love, the center console where you can hide your phone away and put it in timeout, this little lower console right here for extra storage, the middle bit, which is a cool box. If I want to refrigerate my hat in there, I can do so. And all of this extra storage up here too in the dashboard. Just a nice convenient package for adventuring. But the most fun thing about this, and I guess one of the other things unique to the Octa, are the body and soul seats. So let's show you what that does. So you hit the little power button here, And I've got this on level 5. It's turned all the way up. And you've got all of these different settings here. So this is currently vibrating me. What's that one? Soothe. This one's serene. This is like proper Bond villain stuff here. Cool. Tonic. Very British of them. And invigorate. Hopefully none of those sounds are copyright, or else you guys won't even be seeing this bit. But if you want to play yourself a bit of a theme song while you're going, you can do that. But the real purpose of these seats is what's called sensory audio. So if you're listening to just your regular music, you can turn this on and you can vibrate yourself to the beat of the music through the chair. The Topher told me it was very overstimulating. I didn't believe him. I tried it. It's very overstimulating. So that's that. We're going to run on Waze here with our wireless CarPlay. Gauge cluster is pretty much the same. I've got my clock right here because I feel like Land Rovers have to have a clock somewhere. So we have that in the cluster. Love that that's an option. Otherwise, wireless charger right here behind the cup holders. And we talked about the steering wheel being different because we have the Octa button and these unique paddle shifters that glow. Check that out. Into reverse on the sort of classic BMW style shifter. You can see we have just the best cameras in the business because this is a Land Rover. You know, it should kind of prioritize cameras because of all the off-road tech. And this is not all we have with this either. We have this 360 camera. You can see it zooms in there on the wheel arches. This reminds me also, the Octa is available with a 33-inch all-terrain, which you can see this model car here has in the screen, but it does limit your top speed. So happy to have just sort of the regular all-season on this today, since we're only doing street driving and a morning commute to downtown. Because people will be commuting with these, you know. I know many people that would buy this and just, it would never see a speck of dirt. It would just do this sort of thing. So what's it like? Let's find out. These cameras will stay up for quite a while. Wow, they even show the brake lights. Check that out. Will it show turn signal? It does! Fun. All right, how do I get rid of the cameras now, please? There you go. Now, if you can get past some of the interior bits rustling, like a 1990s Mercedes, it's quite nice in here. It's quieter than I thought it would be as far as wind noise and road noise goes, because it is just kind of a big rolling brick, not as much as a G-Wagon or a Jeep Wrangler. But who cares about any of that when you have an S68 to listen to all the time? Even in quiet mode, the exhaust valve will open occasionally, and you can hear some of that sweet, sweet German music. Let's just go straight into dynamic mode. I mean, why waste any time? Play the sound of our people. We're going to leave the gearbox in drive for the time being. And again, like we said earlier, it's a little bit weird hearing this engine and looking at this dashboard, because the 5-liter, it's just, the character is so much different. It's supercharged, it's got a larger displacement, it's more American feeling. And this V8, it kind of snarls and it feels very European. It's quite windy today also, so it's going to exaggerate the wind noise a bit. Okay, let's bump the stick over into S. This puts a very aggressive mapping on the gearbox. And this is seriously quick. Yes, you could argue the 5-liter V8 had a little bit more character, but this, in lack of better words, pulls like a freight train, and it keeps pulling and keeps pulling and keeps pulling. I haven't taken it, obviously, up to 155, but I believe him. I believe him. All right, we're gonna kill traction control. Ooh, must not be able to do it at this speed. Can't do it at this speed, that's okay. Yep. Okay. So I got this from the Topher. He drove this earlier this week. There it is. And his biggest complaint was when he tried taking it around a corner at 10/10ths, it caught all power and behaved like the Escalade V. Basically just kind of killing it when you apply a certain amount of steering angle, which is a little bit weird because Land Rover claimed that they've sort of like developed this at the Nürburgring. But yet they've taken out any ability to take this around a spirited corner. And also, they talk about how this has the quickest steering of any Defender ever, which is very apparent actually when you're driving this. Sometimes can be a bit jarring with how quick the steering is. All right, let's get this in here. Traction off, dynamic mode. Foot is to the floor. It completely kills it. Anyway, let's take manual control. So, not going to be the most fun for canyon carving. Not saying you buy a Land Rover Defender for canyon carving, but if you're somebody that likes to take some spirited corners on your commute, you're going to have a bit of a buzzkill, unfortunately. But what you can do that's a bit thrilling is a dynamic launch. Now, you can do two different sorts of launches in this car. You can do what's called the dynamic launch in dynamic mode, or the off-road launch, which you can only get to in Octa mode. We'll show you both. But the only way to get the 590 pound-feet of torque, it's even cutting power there, is to do the launch in dynamic mode. So what you have to do is you have to have traction control off, like so. Gearbox has to be in sport. And then it's as simple as brake gas, release brake. So we'll show you that up here around the corner. And we'll do what's supposedly a 3.8 second 0 to 60. Okay. Okay, if auto stop start is on, actually it won't do it either, so let's turn that off. Yeah, I believe that 3.8 second figure. It's like noticeably quicker when you do launch control. The 2-3 gear change, you feel like the seat is going to break and you're going to fly into the trunk. Brake pedal feel is good. This is a big thing. It's very heavy. Yep. You know, I honestly don't find myself using these paddle shifters all that much because the tuning on the 8-speed is so intelligent that you really just don't need to do it. All right, this is now in Octa mode, which means if we do a launch control, the truck is going to assume we're off-road, so it's going to limit things a bit. Ensure no heavy cargo or roof load. Original spec tires only. All right, check, check. In Octa mode, this thing is all over the place because it loosens the suspension a bit. And it's actually hilarious because in dynamic mode, you don't get any of this. This suspension system is so sophisticated that there's really no drama. So one of my favorite things about G-Wagons, G63s in particular, is how sort of all over the place they are when you get on throttle. And this can be like that. You just have to be in Octa mode or comfort mode or one of the other 17 drive modes. And the front end gets all loose and it lifts up to the sky, and it's just hilariously entertaining. It's gonna cut power here. Yep. Actually didn't cut power as badly that time. Okay, all right, I think that's good. Let's take this, put this back into its automatic or auto terrain response, put the gearbox back into D, get the green light here, which is very rare actually, and let's commute this downtown. Why not? Okay, when you settle the Octa down, it really does settle down. And I've put about 200 miles on this thing this week. I have been driving it a lot. I've been living with it. I took it to Home Depot for our closet project that we're doing right now and filled it with pieces of wood and things. And it does all of the normal stuff pretty well. And that's kind of key for a car like this because it's an SUV. It's also utilitarian. You should be able to just daily drive this and not think about the 626 horsepower that's under your right foot. But you should be able to use it at a moment's notice. And I think this sort of does a good job blending those couple of things because it quiets down a lot. We know the ZF 8HP is really probably the best automatic gearbox, the best torque converter automatic gearbox on sale currently. Going to be very good to do kickdown since we're on the longest entrance ramp ever and we're still managing to merge going 53, 54. All right, let's leave this in auto and we'll do kickdown. So that's my point, right? Like you can leave this in its auto drive mode or comfort or whatever, and it's able to still do exactly what you want all the time. So that's a good thing. All right, now what about going beyond the powertrain? What about the ride quality? Well, when you leave this in auto or in comfort, the ride quality in here is nice. I wouldn't call it soft and I wouldn't call it floaty, which is okay. I would call this like a daily drivable firm. And that's not a bad thing whatsoever. This truck has not beat me up this week at all. But if you go over like this section here, for example, you do feel some of the imperfections. But this suspension does a great job of compensating. And I don't think that you would say that this car, I don't think you'd say this truck is too firm to daily drive. I think it's a little bit louder than a G-Wagon, but not by much. I'd say it's like maybe 15 to 20% louder than a G-Wagon. Now let's talk ergonomics, which are quite good because Land Rover, I think, kind of wrote the book on SUV seating position. Everyone has only ever tried to match Land Rover's excellent with SUV seating position. Super tall roof, so I feel like I could sit as high up as I want, but even with the seat in the lowest position, I can see the front of the hood. I can see out the back just fine whether I've got the camera mirror deployed or not, which now I do because I can see just a little bit better with it. Massive side view mirrors that allow me to see everything out of the sides, and I've got this big honking steering wheel that I can rest my hands on at even heights. So really no complaints ergonomically in this car. I mean, Land Rover just nails it every time. I've never driven a Land Rover that's had a bad seating position. Keen-eyed viewers will have noticed that we were sitting at exactly 8,000 miles at the start of this video. It's now 8,013. Also, speaking of mileage reminds me about the fuel mileage on this car, which the EPA says is 17 mpg combined. Yeah, right. I've been doing 14. Because I feel like you can't not drive this like a hoon sometimes. You know, you have to kind of figure for some of those full throttle passes, 14 mpg. Now, okay, jokes aside, you probably could pull 17 out of this if you really tried, if you really drove this around normally. But what's the fun in that? I'd rather sort of sacrifice my other 3 mpg and do 14 and actually be able to get on throttle sometimes. Also, apparently does 19 mpg on the highway. I mean, okay, that's it's poor. It's pretty bad. But you don't buy a Defender Octa to be economical. We should mention though that this has a 24-gallon fuel tank and gets 14 mpg, which means you're going to be filling it up frequently, very expensively. Is that a word, expensively? It's going to be hundreds of dollars to fill this up. So just keep that in mind. I mean, if you're spending $160,000 on an SUV, you don't really care. Anyway, though, as we get this off the highway, we have to, of course, attempt to play the sound of our people, which means I'm going to put this back into Octa. I love the way you put this into Octa. My goodness, that is aggressive. I love the way you have to hold this physical button on the steering wheel. It feels like you're initiating something very important. I do wish these paddle shifters had a little bit more of a click to them. They're a little bit gummy. You know, you kind of just... Boost noise. Okay. Rivian R1S. Another vehicle worth mentioning because it's quite a bit cheaper than this, I think, in most forms. But what you don't get with the Rivian R1S is all of that soul. Well, as we get downtown here and make our way with the widest and tallest Land Rover Defender ever, we're just being taunted by Rivians today. There's another one. Why don't we do a sound system test with the body and soul seats? We have to do it. Come on. See what you got, Meridian. God, another Rivian about to have a crash. Did you guys see that? Okay. Get that off of me immediately. Okay, here's the thing about this sound system. So I get the party piece of the whole body and soul sensory thing, whatever. I've never really been the biggest fan of Meridian sound systems. I don't really get the hype behind them. This is probably one of the best ones I've heard. It's very powerful, even if you don't have the vibraty bits on the seat. It still punches really hard, but really only if you have it turned up loud. This is not really a sound system that sounds good quiet. So if you want the full experience with this, you got to kind of crank it, and I think you'll be pretty happy. But there are many other sound systems that are better than this for the $150,000, $160,000 price point. But as we sort of go through here, through some of these potholes, we are back into auto mode. We're not in... Geez, can we fit by this Rivian? The Octa, it's quite wide. It does feel big. So you just have to make sure you know the dimensions of your vehicle very well. But the good thing about it is on this road, where it's just pothole ridden, I don't care. I'll go through them. It doesn't bother me. I know that the 6D has my back here, and the, whatever it is, like 75 section sidewall on this, I'm not worried about it at all. Now it does make the interior rattle, which we talked about earlier some. It's a bit disappointing, and I hate to say, oh, it's just Land Rover. These days, I think if I'm spending 160 grand, I don't want to hear the roof sort of flexing over expansion joints. Anyway, though, Look at this. We are in the city. Another Rivian. What is happening? That's the fourth Rivian we've seen in the last like 4 minutes. Is it telling the story of the future? If people want a high-performance off-roader, they're just going to go electric? Is this a thing of the past? I don't think so. You know, if I were going to go for something high-performance off-road, I would go for something like this. An Octa, a Raptor. Something that excites me in ways more than just going quickly off the line. I mean, this does a lot more than that. It does give me the fizz. It really does. I will say, I do like the supercharged V8 better. I think the supercharged V8, it just sort of ignites the British flair of the car a bit better. Do I love the S68? Yes, but I don't know. I don't know if I just, I don't know what it is. It doesn't give me as much of a fizz as the supercharged car. It's still good. It's just not as good. But good is relative, right? Because this is faster than the 5-liter supercharged V8, but it doesn't sound as cool. I don't know. What is the height limit on this structure is what I want to know. 8'2". Yes, we will fit. We will fit. So here's what I think. I think if you're somebody that wants an off-road truck that's unique, looks the business, makes you feel special, is fast as hell, and has seats that vibrate you, then look no further. The Defender Octa exists, and it's an option beyond a G63 or a Bronco Raptor or a Ford F-150 Raptor R. And you stand out a bit more driving down Rodeo Drive. Right. I think the parking structure is broken, so we're going to leave the premises. He was on the call with one of the people, so that's okay. We'll go end somewhere else. We're still in the city. Maybe we do a little bit of city driving. Go windows down and Octa mode. All right, let's find a spot to wrap this up. Probably just on the street, because I think that's the only structure that's tall enough to actually allow the Octa to park in it. And it's shut. So we'll just go park somewhere else. When you're in the city, okay. Yeah, the size is a bit more apparent, obviously. And it's also very tall, which means you can just see over the top of everything. Except that, obviously, you can't see over the top of a Sprinter. But everything in front of me, I can just see over the roof of, which I suppose helps you place it a bit better. Anyway, though, if you're somebody that's lives in a city and you're considering one of these, good luck. You'll have fun. And, you know, if you hit something every now and then, whatever. Actually, there's a coffee shop up here that we can end at. And I can get Emily a matcha and bring it home for her and be a very good fiance. So maybe we'll do that. We'll wrap it up here on the right, and we'll give you one last look here at the Land Rover Defender Octa. Let's pull in here, and we'll park over here behind because there's a Honda Fit, and I desire to park near it. So that is what we're going to do. Let's use these cameras to get into this spot that's facing the wrong way because I went the wrong way. I have to do a bit of an Austin Powers here. We got it. We're good. You've got sensors actually up top and on the wheel and everywhere. So all of the orifices that sort of stick out, you're still covered there. Shut it off, and that air suspension will auto level to entry exit height for you to get out easily. You know. So there you go. That's been a bit of a morning commute in the Land Rover Defender Octa. I love it. I really do. You know, there are things about it that are sort of head scratchers, but it's a Land Rover at the end of the day. You're kind of always going to have that. And I feel like people that buy Land Rovers, they sort of just know what they're getting themselves into. And well, here you go. Something fun to get yourself into. So that's it for the Land Rover Defender Octa. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, if I left anything out, and we'll see you next time. Take care.